You're listening to the Total Music Business Podcast, brought to you by Puzzle Maker Academy. Here's what happens when you think outside the box. It's time to navigate the music industry with confidence with your hosts, Denny McMahon and Andrea Succi.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Total Music Business Podcast. I am one half of your hosts, Andrea Succi, and over here your other host half, Danny McMahon. Danny, how's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. As always, it's lovely to be on this show again.
Absolutely. Kicking off doing what we're doing, and live music's looking good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking very good. Yeah, loads of gigs.
Yeah, so I was saying to the guys just before we came on, if you're struggling to understand me because my throat is knackered, that's because it is.
Yeah.
So we I think it was 6 shows in 3 days at the weekend. So
yeah, that's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy. So if I'm not sad, I'm not depressed, I'm just on the tired side of life, but forgive
no worries,
me.
Man, no worries. You're sounding beautiful, so it's all good. It's all good. I'm really excited today. We have a conversation with an overseas guest, but more on that in a little bit.
Absolutely.
But now let's get into our release recommendations.
Yeah.
So, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, man, I'm hyped for my one. I tend to bring like the usual sort of country stuff to the table with this stuff, but this time I'm not going to, because the reason being is it's always amazing. I've done this with a few bands in the past. Like I remember, like I saw like You Me at 6 when they first started out. I saw like the 1975 way before they were big. Another one was Bastille before they were even a band. Yeah. Like I remember trying to get people to come and watch Dan. It was just Dan Smith by himself then to come to Thekla here, and like nobody would turn up. They're massive all over the world, and these guys are another one of those. I followed them literally from like their first song that ever came out. They've been signed to a major and they're absolutely killing it, and they just released their debut album. They're called the Band Camino. If you've not heard of them before, go and check them out. They are sick.
Great band.
Songwriting's unbelievable. I think I like it as well because they write with a few sort of like country pop writers as well, like Seth Ennis, Mitchell Tenpenny are kind of like they're in that circle in Nashville. They've played a lot in Nashville, sort of working their way through, but they're obviously a pop band with the sort of like the rock influences in there as well. But they've released their debut album and it is so good. Yeah, it's so good. And the thing I love about it is it's kind of very rarely do I feel invested in full albums these days, just because of the way that obviously we naturally consume music through playlists and find new artists that way. But I've listened to this album front to back and I love every single song, and I love the variation in it. They're not sort of trying to have like a sound, and it doesn't sound restricted. There's ballads, there's like super acoustic stuff, there's stuff that's like got really big guitars in it, this version on the more rocky side of like anywhere between the sort of like your pop ballad and your big rock anthem. You've got everything everything in between, basically. Kind of the way like Oasis used to do back in the day. I remember when I went and saw Oasis live when I was a teenager. Like that's the one thing I loved about their sort of discography. It was so varied, and it's kind of got that feel about it. It's that classic sort of stadium rock feel. Sure, and it's nice to hear that again, because it's obviously it's been gone for a while because kind of went out of fashion a little bit. But to hear it back, in something that's as cool as fresh as what the guys in the Band Camino are doing is really exciting.
Yeah, it was big like 10 years ago, wasn't it? Like when sort of Kings of Leon came out and everyone's like kind of like those like big stadium rock kind of things.
Yeah, it's that vibe.
Yeah.
100%. But they've kind of like, they've added to it and they've recontextualized it and they brought it into like this fresh arena. Yeah. No pun intended. But they've really brought it into like this super new and exciting space that's kind of, brings the best of new modern production with, great classic songwriting, and the big guitar sound is great.
I love that. Yeah, I've heard some stuff from the album, and yeah, definitely worth checking out. And I know as well that you've been a fan for so long.
I have,
every time so you'd mention, there's a new song out, and like we've seen the progression, like really how big they are now, like how far they've come. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Really cool. So definitely check that one out. And my one might be slightly predictable because he's an absolutely huge pop star, but mine's Shivers by Ed Sheeran. And I'm bringing this one in because, for starters, it's an absolutely killer tune.
It is. It's a bop.
And I just like the direction that he's taking for this new album. So I'm really excited to hear the whole album because Bad Habits was also really cool. And it's just something slightly different from him, really. Like it's just, he's really embracing where pop music is going.
Yeah.
And he's doing his own thing with it.
Yeah,
which
100%.
I love.
100%. It was like he could have quite easily have done, Thinking Out Loud Perfect 2.0.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
didn't. So from what we've heard so far, I mean, I've heard little bits of like other stuff from the album, and there is stuff that is, as I say, more sort of like ballad led. But as you say, like Shivers is really cool. It kind of gave me almost sort of like old school Shawn Mendes vibe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from it, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, Ed. That's a different place for you, and the melody. I mean, the songwriting's always going to be great. His top lines are always phenomenal. But
no, absolutely, yeah. And the same was like with Bad Habits as well, when he brought out like that it's like kind of pushing it slightly more into the sort of Dua Lipa more type of production that's become like very big, and it's got that influence, but it's still very much Ed Sheeran, and that's brilliant. Still got the same great team around him as well. It's another album fully mixed by Spike Stent, British mixer,
your best
biggest
mate.
British mixer. Oh, I can say I've met him. I mean, saying he's my best mate. It would be amazing to be able to say that. Maybe one day. But
he
yeah.
said your mix was good, though.
He did. Yeah.
There you go. There's a flex and a half. Spike Stent said your mix was good.
There we go.
Have that on your gravestone.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's definitely another one to check out if you haven't heard any of Ed's new stuff. Definitely go and check it out. And I think it's time now to bring in our guest.
Yeah,
I'll let you introduce him, Danny.
All right, drum roll, cool cats and kittens. So I always make the mistake of bringing people onto this show that are a lot cooler than me, and I'm going to do it again. So I'm gonna bring on one of my songwriting buddies. We met in Nashville. We write together a lot. He's sort of shown me the ropes in a lot of regards of how to, the songwriting scene in Nashville works. We have a lot of in-depth conversations about it, but I'm absolutely delighted to have him on the show. Ladies and gents, give it up for Tyler Bank. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm not cooler than you. I disagree.
I think it's the accent, man. It's just like, for whatever reason, to us, like the American accent just automatically makes everything cooler. We were chatting about it just before we came on. We were just like, we listened to this podcast and that podcast earlier, and they just sound so much cooler than it's to us. The British accent sounds so dorky, but then when I go out there, everyone's like, "Yeah, you're British, awesome!" Like I don't.
Yeah, no, it's the complete opposite. Because to me, you have an accent, so you're cool. I agree. It's something about an accent is cool.
It is totally. Yeah. All right, well, let's dive into this straight away. I'm gonna go with a really simple question. It might not be, but I think it would be really cool to get into the initial background of where you started with your journey as a songwriter. So was there a defining moment when you decided songwriting was what you wanted to do?
I think for me, it always starts when I'm asked that, it always starts with the end of high school, because I was an athlete my whole life up until that point. I mean, I still think I am, but some would say I'm not, but I think I am. I'll always think I am, but it was the end of high school. I was realizing that I wasn't going to be playing, any sports beyond high school, because I was going to Penn State, which is a big Division I college. And I was like, I'm not going to play basketball there, or football. I hadn't played football since 4th grade, so I wasn't going to play at Penn State. But basketball and tennis and all the sports I played in high school. So I said, I got to figure something else out that I love, that I could do for a long time. And I picked up a guitar and started writing songs on my own. And that's really when I found my love for it. I didn't know I wanted to, or was even going to be able to do it for, my whole life. And there's a way of making money, but I knew that's what I loved the most in life once I started just playing that guitar and trying to write songs on my own. And then moving to Nashville, which I did 3 years ago, really just introduced me to co-writing, which is a whole nother thing. So I was writing songs on my own for those years leading up to that. And then moving to Nashville and just diving into co-writing, it just inspired me and gave me an even bigger passion. I love writing on my own, but co-writing is to me my favorite way to write. So I've just loved writing with other people and learning from them over the last 3 years.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I preach that all the time. Like I've spoken about that on the show probably a few times as well. It's just like the buzz that you get in Nashville, and like that co-writing element of it is just it's so special and so unique. There's nowhere else like it in the world. Like, I've written songs and played shows all over the place, but there's nothing like the way Nashville is. Like, and to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, like you and all your friends was probably my first sort of like eye opener to that, and all the shows that I was doing with a lot of the guys that you know. I go on about this sort of incredible social circle that it has, but you and your guys like Aaron, etc. as well, were all like, was like my first sort of eye opener to all of that. And I thought that was.
Well, I remember seeing you play. It was at a round at Belcourt Taps, and we do what's called writers rounds, which, like, for people listening, is when you go around and everybody plays a song and then another song, and you just play original songs that you wrote with an acoustic guitar. And that is such a special experience because you're hearing people's voices and what they have to say, and it's just like the bare bones acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. So there isn't like, you can really sell a song with production and with as you guys know at your studio, that's part of what a studio does, is like make something bigger. But when you just have an acoustic guitar, you really hear how good the actual song is and how good the actual writing is. So it's a really special thing to have variety within that, when you just have one instrument and everybody's playing the same one, and yet everybody's voices are different and everybody's so talented. So seeing my first writers round was also another moment where I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And Danny, I remember seeing you play and being like, we should, and you saw me play and you said we should write. So that's a big thing that happens, is you see people playing and go, I really like what they're doing, I want to write with them. So that's a huge aspect of it. Straight
up. Because I didn't even know, like, at the time, if that was like acceptable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I watched Tyler and Aaron, and I'm trying to remember who the other two guys were now. Your buddies, you're always doing them with them. Colin.
Zane, probably.
Colin and Zane. That was
Colin
it.
And Zane.
Right.
Yeah,
and they all were like singing each other's songs, and they also written stuff together. And I heard that song that Colin sang once, and I still know it, that No Money one.
That's a song we wrote together.
Right,
yeah.
So I've heard that song once, and I know the chorus.
Amazing.
Which is like sick. But the whole thing, it was like, and I've been to like the CMA writers rounds and whatever else, and I'm not joking, like hand on heart, I'm not saying this just because you're here, it was the best writers round I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was just like, what is this? Like, my mind was blown. You could see that it was like about so much more than just like songs.
Yeah.
And the music, it was about the whole sort of like the social element of it, and the culture surrounding it all. And I thought, oh my God, I'm actually like witnessing something like really special here.
Yeah.
Because I watched them all, and I was like, that guy, him boy on the left, which was you. And I was like, that's the kind of music that I wanna write. And so he's literally got it there. So I was like, and I think, and I was totting around. I was like, do I go and talk to him or not? Because he's like, songwriter.
Well, what we have in common, I think, like what we both have in common, which I don't see all the time, is a level of like crowd engagement that we look for. And I'm always trying to get people singing. And I know you were doing the exact same thing. So I was like, there's something we could make together, which we ended up doing, that I feel like we could get something really cool if we got in the room together. And I'm really obviously grateful, and I'm sure you are, that we did.
Yeah, straight
and
up,
we need to do more. But we've written more, but there's something also that can't be replicated when you get in the actual room with someone, because we've done like virtual, but that was the one time we've like gotten in the room together and we created something really, really cool. And I'm not surprised at all, because you and I are similar in that sense, what we're trying to make musically. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think within like, sort of like 5 or 10 minutes, I could tell from the music you were writing anyway, but like, say within that 5 or 10 minutes, like when you just, and that's the thing about co-writing, obviously, is that when you go into that environment, you kind of like, you can come up with something that's like, life changing, or something that's going to be a, pint of hot sick that you never ever revisit ever. But I could tell, like, we literally just started having a conversation about like the music that we liked, and I was like, oh my God, like, and obviously for me, like being in the UK, chatting about like Sam Hunt to somebody is like a big deal, because I never get to do that to anyone other than you.
Yeah.
So for someone to sit down and actually get like my entire music taste, I was like, this is dope, this is perfect. And obviously the song that we came out with, did what it did, and it's been amazing. It's been nominated for awards and went to number one, and all of that stuff. But that's the bit that people see, but what we're chatting about here is the bit that people really don't see and don't even really think about. And that's why I think it's important to chat about it, because it's such a journey from that point where we sit down and you go, oh yeah, something about a city, my kind of city, to it going to number one. That journey is massive, and there's so much like that's invested into it, in terms of what you're doing, and and emotionally as well. So it was a sick experience for sure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. No, it's so great having someone like you come into town, right? Because we're here, and it can become stale at times just being here with the same people. But when people come into town like yourself, it's just, there's new ideas, new energy, new appreciation, because you tell me how cool it is and I'm reminded of it. So it's special. So come back.
Yeah, man. So we've had the green light this week.
We have finally, yes.
So as of November, we are allowed to head back to the States. So it's game on as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Game on. So on to my next question. So you've just released a new song as an artist yourself, which is also something you do. First and foremost, kids, go and check it out. It's an absolute bop. I think you played it that night I saw you as well. So it's called That's How We Grew Up. What's the story behind the song? Tell us.
So I went to Penn State, which I mentioned earlier, and two of my good friends from college were in Nashville. One of them lives here, which is Colin, who you mentioned earlier, and he's fantastic, a producer, writer, artist, everything. And my buddy John, who's also a writer, but he lives in Philadelphia. He was just in town. And we were all kind of just drinking and hanging out and talking about college. And we said, we should probably write something about that time, those 4 years that we spent hanging out and partying and drinking. And so we did. That's pretty much the story. And it was so inorganic because you know how you organize a co-write often. This was sort of just like, we're hanging out and let's write that.
That's sick.
And it just sort of happened that way. So yeah, that's pretty much the story behind it, but it's really cool to just have it out now. And I went back to school, back to the campus last weekend for a football game, and people were like playing it at tailgates. So it was really, really special. I'm just glad it's out now. Amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a bop, and obviously it's got a story.
Thank you.
It's something that means something, and you could tell it was a big part of your life, just the way you were singing it. But I remember you telling the story about it all as well. That's really, really cool. And obviously, yeah, I mean, I've met Colin, and he's a phenomenal writer.
He's awesome. He's super talented.
Yeah. So as a songwriter, this is something that a conversation I tend to have a lot. I've had these kind of conversations on Clubhouse, and like I kind of get asked, about sort of just under a year ago, signed my first publishing deal, etc. And like that's a long journey. Anyone who is a songwriter knows that that's a hell of a long journey. It's a hell of a lot, a big slog to get to that point. But as a songwriter, you've got to be really business savvy, and I don't think a lot of people are sort of taught that, even at college. Like wasn't necessarily taught the business side of being a writer. We're taught about royalties, but kind of like how to get from I write songs to a publishing deal.
No, that's true.
Nobody knows. It's kind of like the wild west. So from your perspective, what would your top tip be to anyone who's trying to crack a career as a songwriter? Because you're always really proactive. You're always releasing, songs are being, cut that you've written from various artists all over Nashville. I see that quite a lot. What's your advice as someone who's trying to put themselves into that sphere?
Well, the biggest advice is to take your own advice, because I don't always take my own advice, but I think it's easy to see sometimes what you need to do, and it's harder to actually do it. But I think the best thing I could tell people is to do the back end stuff, because playing rounds and getting in front of people and writing, like that's a prerequisite. You need to be doing that and getting cool demos. But I feel like what is not talked about, which is what a lot of people that get signed do, and you could probably speak to this, is like the emails that you send, here are my songs, to publishers. Like when you make a connection, like writing it down and memorizing it. And when someone says like, let's get coffee, you actually follow back up with them and get coffee. And it's all these like back end things that nobody sees, these communications that you do behind the scenes that will eventually lead to things. But if you just expect to be discovered, it's very, very unlikely that you're just going to be out one day and someone's going to see you. That story is, I'm not going to say it's a fairy tale, but it's just not as likely as you keeping contact with people over time and building relationships and networking really well behind the scenes. So that would be my biggest advice, is just keep your connections and grow them and correspond with them and send them songs. And eventually one of those people will probably give you something really cool opportunity.
This is it. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly that's, and then a lot of the guys that are listening to this, it's sort of a people, who are sort of fresh on their journey, who are looking to, turn their music into a career. So that's the that's the perfect advice, and that would always be my advice as well as far as songwriting is concerned. Just go and network, go and meet people, just put yourself in places. I mean, that's how we met. You know what I mean? Like, 100%. Exactly. Just put yourself out there. And now obviously, that the world's coming back around and things are a bit more normal again. That makes it easier. Say like when I signed my publishing deal that was 18 months in the works. You know, a lot of people would just go, oh yeah, great, you know, you've won an award, you've won a deal, you've got a deal or whatever. Like, it's like, yeah, but it's like, you know, I put that song out like, you know, a year and a half ago. I recorded it 2.5 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, we're very good at celebrating something like when it's successful, but in that kind of that process all the way through isn't very well talked about. And that's kind of what we talk about in our course as well, isn't it? That we do a lot. It's really, really, you know, fundamental that you go out and you do that and you make I call it relationship building. That is so important with songwriting. I feel like that is the most important part of it, whether it's with publishers, whether it's with other writers, whether it's with artists, whether it's, you know, as what you're saying, Tyler, it's like law of averages. Eventually you'll get yourself into a place where someone's going to be there. Yeah. You know, and if you're writing country music, kids, like, you know, even if you've got to save for 18 months to do it, make sure you get yourself a trip to Nashville. Like, I know you can do it with, you know, getting your stuff out with Facebook ads or whatever, but there's nothing like being in the real place. Like, it's
absolutely.
You know,
and like to your credit, I mean, first of all, congratulations on all that, which I feel like I've said to you before, but
thank you,
but not on your podcast right now. So I'm going to say, but I feel like you are such a great networker and obviously a phenomenal songwriter, artist, singer. You get the crowd involved, but also you respond to people's comments, you engage with people, but that's genuinely who you are. But I feel like you do those things that you deserve all your success. And so if you had just put out the music and said, it's going to happen for me, you know, that's one way of doing it. But I feel like you've ensured that you're going to have success by being a great networker and by, you know, being engaging with people and appreciative of everything that you get. So that's a credit to you. And that's also advice for everybody, is like, be grateful along the way, because that'll just only be good for you.
This, bless you, man, bless us, really kind of you. But like, yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just, I just think, like, you know, in everything I've ever studied in music, even when we were at music school, like everything you've ever studied, the only reason anything's ever been successful is because it's got a community of something around it. It's got a culture or a community that surrounds it, which then gives the music purpose. Because without that, the music has no purpose. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't. The two and two need to work together. So by creating, you know, your own community and your own group of people, and by actually, you know, making people feeling more than just like they are fans, I think long gone are the days of like, I'm here and the people listening to my music are there. It needs to be. It's one big thing, and I think that's why a lot of independent artists are so successful. You know, and yeah, massive part of it. And finally, I'm going to ask you, where do your biggest influences come from as both a songwriter and an artist, really? But yeah, where does your biggest influence come from? Is it from you know, other artists that you're tuned into, or is it, you know, personal experience, or is it sort of like, you know, writing commercially to a particular spec and brief? Or is it all of those things?
It is a lot of those things. I would say it's remembering moments and artists that like make you feel something, right? Whenever you hear a song or hear an artist that speaks to you, you kind of go, whether you think about it consciously or not, you're going, what was that hit me? Or whether it's a deep level or just a surface level where you're dancing, but what is it that affects me? And so I hear, you know, something sung by David Nail where he's closing his eyes and singing it, and it hits me in the soul. Or I hear, you know, Old Dominion singing something that's flowy and fun, and I can sing to it. And so to me, I remember those moments and go, I kind of want to make something that makes somebody else feel the same way that I felt in that moment. And so that's really where my influences come from. It's just trying to make people feel the same way I feel when I hear a song that I love. And that's kind of what I've done. And I don't know if it's always conscious, but I listen back to a song I've written and I go, okay, I can hear the influence or what song hit me like that, or where it came from. So, and then of course life inspires you, but just from a musical sense. Yeah. And I think you probably have some of the same and similar influences that I do musically.
Yeah, straight up. But what's really interesting is like what you've said there is the same answer that whenever I do like a radio interview or anything, they're sort of like, what is it you love about writing songs, is literally what you just said. When you can create a song that represents a universal emotion. Mm-hmm. That's such an amazing thing to be able to, not from an ego perspective, purely from just like from a communicative place. Like for me, it sort of comes from, you know, day to day, I find that quite difficult with like, especially with people I've never met, which is most, when you're playing to a bigger crowd, that's often the way. And to sort of just go, okay, like, here's a song about my battle with mental health, and you play it, and then you see people's reaction on that stage, and people start singing along, and people know it, and people have obviously felt the same way that you did when you were writing it, when you're singing it. Man, that's such a journey. That's sick.
And part of that to me is like, I know you have a unique set of experiences, and so do I, and so does everybody. So I try to write as a writer, writing with other artists, I'm trying to help them get their voice out. But as a writer for myself and for what I want to put out, it's just things I want to say because nobody else can say what I'm saying. And so it's figuring out what your unique voice is, like what you want to say in that moment. And also what you're trying to, convey emotionally, like we just talked about. So yeah, that's a big part of it. I've also, and I don't know if you're the same way, I've started to figure out what's my artist's voice and what's my writer skill sets that I bring into them. They're different things. They're different. There are songs that I go, that's for me. That's what I'm trying to say. And there are songs that I go, that's for you, or that's for pitch, or so that's a huge part of moving here and writing a lot.
100%. I totally get that. I mean, that's why this, as I say, for me, that's why country music as an artist started, was because I've been writing for other people, and there was these 2-3 songs, I remember sitting down with you kind of going, actually that's my life, that's songs about me. It's like, oh damn, I've actually got to go out and be an artist. Oh no. But anyway, yeah, no, it's very much like that. I totally get what you're saying, but I'm gonna pass you on to Drea now. We're going to make it a bit more fun, a bit more lighthearted, and I'm going to stop being so intense. So have fun, guys and gals, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right. So this last part of the show is where we do the quick fire questions round. So this is just to get a little bit more into the character of our guests. So are you ready to go?
I'm always ready. Let's do it.
Nice one, man. Obviously, the question's quick. You feel free to go into as much detail as you like with your answers. So number one is, what is your desert island disc?
What is my desert island disc?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I love it. I said that.
We thought that would be the case.
I said, I'm pretty sure that's like a British radio DJ phrase. I think that's where it comes from. But he was like, I'll try it anyway.
I'll try it.
We'll see how we go.
See.
I'm thinking Frisbee came to mind first, but I'm imagining it's a music thing. Is it like a CD I'd listen to or something?
It's a CD.
You got it.
It's a CD. It's what album would you take with you on a desert island? So what's the one album that you take with you?
That is such a good question, by the way. No, really. I'm going to go with Hero by Maren Morris. I love that album so much. And it's one of the first albums that really inspired me to want to move to Nashville and write country music, and my church and 80s Mercedes, and just the top to bottom. It's just incredible songwriting. And she's got a really cool story of her going from writer to artist, and it inspires me. And she's played at some of the same places. Like she's played at Belcourt Taps, Danny. So
there you go.
Amazing.
Playing with her someday.
It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I was sat at home, and there was about 5 of us watching it, and we were watching CMA Fest, and Maren Morris was playing, and then suddenly the screen sort of tops, and it pans across the screen, and Tyler was on the screen.
Oh yeah,
singing along. I was like, it's Tyler.
Funny story about that though. It was actually Luke Bryan singing originally, and I've seen it now 3 years, and it's like a different artist every year that they show me.
Oh, is it?
It just cuts it. Like last year, it was Maren Morris Girl, and I'm just like bobbing back and forth. And but it was originally Luke Bryan. Most people are good.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
love it. But yeah, that's a brilliant album. Absolutely, everyone should go and check it out.
Sugar from that album, by the way, is one of the most underrated songs ever.
Yeah,
like so underrated as a tune. That
there we go. Yeah, that's a great choice. Okay, so next one is, what is the last song you listened to? And by that I mean, if you open up your music streaming player,
I can tell you. I can tell you right now.
All right, go for it.
Love Somebody by Maroon 5.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah, we love Maroon 5.
I'm back in a Maroon 5 kick because I saw them. It was my buddy's bachelor party, and we went to see Maroon 5, and I was like, I forgot how many hit songs these guys have. I've been like on a Maroon 5 kick. So that song has been on repeat on my phone.
Oh,
that's a really good idea for a bachelor party, because I don't really drink, so everyone always wants to get leathered, but that's not really my vibe. So Drea's like, damn, party pooper. But that's a sick idea. I have to think of that. There you go.
You got some inspiration there.
Yeah. We can all go and see the Venga Boys reunion.
So like you have to plan around where you're going to be. Like that was the closest concert. So I don't know if it was option one, but it was a pretty good option for like where we were, how remote we were. We were in like the middle of Pennsylvania and they were playing like an hour away. So it was kind of perfect. But man, like I knew every single song and I hadn't like ever looked them up or been like, let me listen to an album. I just knew every song from the radio and they're all hit songs for a reason. So it's just catchy and it's fun. And I'm a fan now. I'm like a new fan. I loved their first album with like Sunday Morning and She Will Be Loved and This Love and stuff. But even the new stuff, I'm like, it's catchy.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. All right. So then the next one is, what is the first concert you attended? The very, very, very first one.
The very, very first concert was Backstreet Boys' Black and Blue.
Yeah! What an album! Oh, Shape of Your Heart. Yeah, Shape of My Heart, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is a true story. I was at Backstreet Boys' Black and Blue, and I like couldn't see because someone was in front of me, and I leaned over and I fell, and I hit my eye on the cup holder, and I got a Black and Blue. And I can always say now, I got a Black and Blue at the Black and Blue concert.
What a story.
I loved that.
Yeah. What a gig as well. Like the first concert. Brilliant.
We love the boy bands.
I loved that. I'll still, I'm about to go listen to them after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were my favorite boy band, easily. Yeah. But they weren't the biggest over here. Like at the time, like in the UK, it was all about like Westlife and like all that. Backstreet Boys weren't the thing, but they've kind of like had a resurgence now.
Yeah.
Like everyone's sort of like, at like weddings or whatever, everyone wants Backstreet's back.
Backstreet's back, yeah. Oh, what a
Backstreet's
tune.
back.
What a tune.
All right.
Yeah. Brilliant. I hear you've lived in a fair few places around the US. So what's your favorite and why?
Oh, wow. That's really tough because I've loved living in Nashville, but I also loved living at Penn State. I'll say that if you're living and you're going to college, you should go to Penn State. That's the best place to be. But if you're trying to pursue a career in music, Nashville's the best place to be. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with your life. But it's those two places. Nowhere else. I would not recommend anywhere else on earth other than those two places. And I've lived in New Jersey, Cleveland. I've lived in Los Angeles, and obviously I'm in Nashville now. So there's nowhere else I'd rather be right now than Nashville. But I did have such a good 4 years there as well at Penn State.
Amazing. Yeah. That's brilliant. Topping LA as well. That's, because to us, obviously being over here in the UK, like LA is like top, but that's great to
LA
hear.
Has a lot of positives. It's a really great city. There's great weather. There's a lot to do. Yeah. And the beach is right there. It's beautiful, but there's drawbacks and it's expensive. There's traffic. So, I did enjoy my time there. I loved it. I really did, but I just was ready to move to Nashville for this community too is hard to find there. It's
of course, yeah.
It's hard to find anywhere. So that's just a credit to Nashville having such a good community of songwriters and up and coming artists, as Danny knows.
Yeah, I was going to say and unless you go, you can't quite grasp it. Like I was, and I just thought it was, as I say, I'd only been to really like LA, and I think I'd been to New York on the way. And that was the only places that I'd been when I got to Nashville. Yeah. And I was just like, this is just its own thing. I'll never go anywhere like this ever again. If there's anywhere else in the world like it, I'd be amazed, to put it that way.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I'm sure it's absolutely incredible. Everyone's
going to get it here too, Drea.
Yes, well, that actually leads me on to the next question because I haven't had the chance to go to Nashville yet, but I really want to go soon. And so what is the one place that I definitely can't miss?
Belcourt Taps.
Yeah, I knew it.
That's what Danny predicted that you'd say.
I already knew the answers to these questions before you'd even said it. We spent way too much time.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
People don't see on the podcast, Danny's holding up a card right after I say something, and it's exactly what I just said because he knows my mind. Yeah.
Love
Belcourt Taps. You can't miss it. It's awesome. It's like the first place everybody that moves here plays. And it's like just an incredible like little dive bar where everybody sings along, and it's just fun.
Yeah. Wow. Brilliant. There we go.
It is dope. It's so sick. I've again, like, you know, I played there on like a Sunday evening at like 6 o'clock. I was like, is there going to be anybody there? And walked in through the door, and it's just like buzzing, literally buzzing. I was
Brilliant.
Like, oh, everyone's amazing as well. Like, you know, the quality of the artists. I was last in my round.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely like pooing myself, to put it nicely. Like I was like, oh gosh, this is like a whole different level.
Yeah.
Do something good quick, basically. Was going through my mind.
And you did. You did something great.
I tried.
Rapidly.
That's amazing. All right, I'll put that on my list, and I'll definitely head down there, and I'm sure I'll see you there, Tyler. Then probably.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then outside of music, what's your biggest obsession?
I've definitely talked about it, but it's Penn State football.
Yeah.
We're in season right now, and we're 3-0.
Can you explain to our English listeners what that actually means? Because 3-0 is
3-0. So football, you only play college football. You only play like 12 games. If you win the whole thing, you probably play like 15. So each game is really important, and it's hard to go 3-0. I'm obsessed because I went there, and I love sports, as I've talked about. So it's just on brand, and my songs about it. But I'm predicting a national championship on this podcast.
Hey.
So you can play it back if I'm correct. It's a different kind of football than you guys are used to. I know by you, it's all about soccer football. But this is like tackling pads. I don't think y'all have American football.
No, we have rugby is the closest thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the closest thing, which is kind of like, you know, you don't have the pads and you don't have a helmet, and you can only pass the ball backwards. Mm-hmm. You can't throw it forwards.
It's probably fun though. I feel like people get hurt sometimes because they have the helmets on and they like dive head first. So maybe there's a lot of people who say it's safer if you don't have helmets and all those things and pads. I don't know. You tell me, do people get hurt all the time, or are they pretty good about?
My dad told me, my dad's quite a big rugby fan. Right. And he told me that playing a professional rugby game is the equivalent of being in a car crash on your body.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I can't imagine, people do get hurt quite a lot.
Well, I won't be playing, but I will watch.
Yeah, we'll just stick to watching.
I remember my old job, I used to work in a gym, and they used to, and the local rugby team used to actually be there. And this guy was, I'm not even joking, he was like 2 of me easily. He was massive, absolutely huge. And he was only like 18, 19. Yeah. And the trainer was like, you got to work out more, mate. So you're way too small. Oh my God, imagine that running at you and he's too small. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Music is safe.
It is. Yeah, that was it. That was my mum's excuse for me not playing rugby and football anymore. She's like, you need your hands now.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Other than when you fall on stage, but
other than when I fall on stage, did happen.
Yes.
That was a very real moment. I face planted
very
the
real,
floor.
very funny. For everyone involved, other than yourself, obviously.
Oh, dude, it was so embarrassing. So this is like before the country days. So this is
a pub gig.
This is like my pre Danny McMahon as a solo artist life. We were playing as a band in a pub, and I'll have to, because obviously the listeners can't see my hand actions, so I'm going to try and have to explain it really well. Yeah. There was how would you explain it?
Well, we were on top of this kind of riser area.
On top of the riser area, there were some steps.
There's steps leading up to it.
Yeah, and there were like poles either side, weren't they?
Yeah,
poles either side. And Dre was playing like this kick-ass guitar solo, and I was like, I wasn't doing anything. I was doing like the whole front man, like walking around like a bit of an arse kind of thing, really. And anyway, I thought, right, I was so fired up. I was like, right, I'm going to swing from these poles. I'm going to create momentum, and I'm going to land on a drum kit. That was my logic. Yeah. And rather than swinging forward, I literally just went like, I didn't have anywhere near enough momentum basically, and just went like face first down. Proper like when a bird gets like a fish out the water. It was that angle, and just hit the floor, bang, And I stayed on the floor because I kind of laughed to myself because I knew what was the wrath that was going to be. They carried on playing. Nobody even stopped. They just carried on.
Well, we had a quick look. We thought, he's all good. He seems all good. He's laughing. So, I mean, it must be okay. We'll carry on jamming.
And then we finished. And then there's a deadpan silence. I was like, yeah, sorry about that. And I hear this massive, ah, ha, 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 coming from the back. This woman like cackling super loudly. And it was my mum.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my rock star moment.
There we go.
Short-lived, thank God.
Yeah. But other than that, music is super safe.
If you fall, it's about getting back up, and you did it. So you deserve credit.
Yeah.
Your mom's laughing at you.
I know, right? Yeah. You're a better mum than my mum. There you go.
All right, then. So next one is, do you have a quote you live your life by or think of often?
A quote I live my life by.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on Tennyson Drive. So we lived in the poet section in my hometown.
Yep.
And all the streets were named after poets. So we lived on Tennyson, and then there was Dryden and Byron and Addison. And I always was fascinated by Tennyson. And he had a great quote is, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." So I apply it to music and passions and things like that, in the sense that just want to pursue them like with everything I have. And if it goes where I want it to go, that's great. If not, I'm glad I did it because I had something I loved and was passionate about. And I live by that, I would say, every day.
For sure.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, amazing.
Listen, that is that's one to glue into your mindset.
What about you guys, though? I know I'm not the questioner, but I'd love to know.
Go on, flip it. Go on then, Drea. You start.
You're a living magnet. What you attract into your life is in harmony with your dominant thoughts. Brian Tracy said that one. I just I just love it because I love that whatever you put out is basically what you'll get back, and it's just all about energy for me, like positive energy, and just bringing good, just sending out good vibes and just putting your mind towards something, and it'll just come back. So that's high up on my list.
Very good. Mine's not particularly inspiring, but it's one that I do live by every single day.
Yeah.
And it's the classic of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think that is underrated as a phrase. I think a lot of, I can chat the hind legs of a donkey when it comes to music, but like it's all sort of, I think it's just so important to think about it in a particular way rather than go to, and we chat about this in the course, like in a slightly different way. It's sort of like, for me, to take that a step further, it's sort of like taking things a step beyond the obvious. I think a lot of people are very sort of like, kind of look about sort of a foot in front. Yeah. And I think it's very important definitely in what we do is to actually, for every thought you have and every process you go through, to think about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead in advance, rather than thinking about, as I say, the obvious. That's, it's like when you ask someone to say, okay, so what do you want to do as a musician? And it's like, sell out the stadiums. No. Yeah, press the rewind button.
Yeah, rewind.
Let's go through about
some steps in the way. Yeah.
And I think that in terms of how you communicate with people, that kind of concept is very important. So I'm going to go with that one.
Very true.
Great. All right. Well, then our last one is, if you have any ask or request for our audience, just any parting words, anything you'd like to plug. It's your chance to plug everything that you do.
Sure. Thank you for setting me up, because I never would unless you did, because I am not good at the shameless plugging, but I'll try. I just put out a song called That's How We Grew Up, so you can listen to it.
Absolutely.
Which would be awesome.
Definitely.
Listen to it on whatever you want, iTunes, Spotify, all those things.
We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put a Spotify link in the show notes so people can just go tap on it and hear your amazing song.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be, I've received word that it's going to be in the show notes.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check the show notes out, it'll be there and you can listen to it. And then you can just follow me on any platform at Tyler Bank Music. I've got it Twitter, Instagram, all that's Facebook. So you can find me on any of those at Tyler Bank Music, and follow my journey, which is partly your journey too, because we are going to continue writing and all working together. And I'd love to record with you, Dre, at some point, and or just be in the room on YouTube record, because I'm a big fan of not only the writing and artistry of Danny, but also the sound that you guys create together at Puzzle Maker. So
thank you, man. No,
thank you, man.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Definitely.
Yeah.
We'll definitely put all these links in the show notes so people can connect with you. And man, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been super fun to have you on, and thanks for sharing all your words of wisdom with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'd love to do it again. And guys, get down here ASAP, because Nashville misses you.
Absolutely.
And
we will be there soon.
First trip.
Yeah,
you gotta see it. You gotta see Belcourt Taps.
Yeah, you gotta see Belcourt Taps. You do.
Oh, definitely. It's high up on my list.
The coolest pub you've ever been to.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. As I say thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you in Nashville sooner rather than later. Take care, bub.
All right, guys, take care.
So just a final reminder for our listeners about our online course, The Modern Artist Pathway. It covers all aspects of being a professional artist, from setting up and successfully monetizing your business, to branding, to releasing your music, to personal and professional development tips and tricks, and with music industry advice too. So for more info and to enroll, head to puzzlemakeracademy.thinkific.com. That's puzzlemakeracademy.thinkific.com, or just tap on the link in the show notes. And also don't forget to sign up to our mailing list, which goes out once a month and keeps you up to date with all the latest news from the worlds of Puzzle Maker Academy and Puzzle Maker Studios, and gives you useful free bonus content as well. Thanks again for listening, and hit subscribe to get notified to future episodes. Take care until next time.